Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, I'm excited today to share my thoughts on a recent release from the Criterion Collection. This video is going up during Thanksgiving week, and we're still in the midst of the November 2025 Barnes & Noble 50% off Criterion Collection sale. So in light of that, I'm trying to get out my thoughts on as many titles as possible while the sale is going on. So I had a chance to pick up this fascinating film that was announced back in August that it was coming out in November. It comes in at spine number 1289 in the Criterion Collection. This is my very first film that I've seen of director Luis Buñuel, and it is his 1953 film, now out on 4K Ultra HD. It is El. From director Luis Buñuel, the Spanish director. This is one of his films that he made during his time in Mexico. And this is a fascinating film about paranoia and delusion of this man here, played by Arturo de Cordova, married to this woman, played by Delia Garces, and his obsession and his paranoia and his descent into madness, just so fascinatingly told by Luis Buñuel. So I want to tell you what I think about this movie. I want to tell you what I think about how this film looks on 4K Ultra HD. This is a film from 1953, so how does it look on the 4K format? It's based on the new 4K digital restoration. There's no HDR. So how does it look? How does it sound? And in terms of supplements, are there good supplements on here? If so, what are they? And overall, is this a package that you should consider adding to your collection? Is this a package that you ought to consider picking up as part of the November sale or any time of the year? So on the other side of this, we'll get into it. We'll talk about this film and this package. And is this one that you might want to add to your collection? So let's talk about El. All right, we're talking about El, the 1953 film from Luis Buñuel, now out on Criterion 4K Ultra HD as part of Spine 1289 in the collection. So this is a very fascinating title that I must say I really enjoyed. I'll go ahead and show you the front and the back of the case here. Show you the inside with the 4K disc and the Blu-ray disc. And this very interesting picture here of this man here, because you can get an idea of his descent into madness during the course of this film. But I do have a few slides that I want to share with you to sort of break down certain aspects of this film. But I want to know in the comment section below, for those of you who are familiar with Luis Buñuel's work, you've seen more of his films than I've seen. This is the only one of his that I've seen. So for those of you out there who have seen more of his films, and there are a number of his films in the Criterion Collection, what are some of your recommendations? Have you seen El? If so, what do you think about El? And what do you think about some of the other films from Luis Buñuel? Let us know that in the comments section below. But let me take a moment to read the back of this case, and then we'll get into some slides. So it says, Spanish surrealist master Luis Buñuel's fiendish tale of love gone wrong is among the most perverse and unsettling films he made during his 2 decades of exile in Mexico. Folding his own neuroses into an adaptation of Mercedes Pinto's autobiographical novel, Buñuel crafts an expressionistically stylized nightmare in which a young woman, Delia Garces, discovers that the outward sophistication of her new husband, Arturo de Cordova, masks disturbing depths of jealousy and paranoia. A characteristically raw indictment of religious and social hypocrisy, El stands as the director's greatest excursion into melodrama, a vivid portrayal of society's inability to restrain the irrational urges of the human id. Fascinating film. I really enjoyed watching this movie for the first time. It was a blind buy for me. I was intrigued by the summary of this film when it was first announced back in August that it was coming out in November. And it's just another example of a great discovery. I have no problem blind buying Criterion titles because usually I end up discovering something new and learning more about the world of cinema. And this is a great example of that. So I do have some slides. Let's get into them right now. So starting with my cover slide here. This is L 1953, my Criterion 4K review. You see at the very center panel there, you see a little drawing or painting of Arturo de Cordova and Delia Garces. This is the married couple in this film. And of course, Arturo de Cordova is the man who is dealing with the paranoia and delusion that is absolutely wrecking his marriage to this beautiful woman. He's not even able to enjoy his marriage because he's so filled with jealousy and obsession. But this is a film from Louis Buñuel. To the far right, you see this clock tower, or this bell tower, if you would, which plays a role in this film and is the basis of this cover of this edition. Fascinating cover with the two of them under this bell at this top of this tower. Very, very nice scene that sort of, brings back a memory of the third man as they look down on the street and they see the people below. And he has a similar observation to Orson Welles' character. So you see some parallels there, but really, really nice scene toward the end of this film is this bell tower scene. So really enjoyed that. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Louis Buñuel, the director. So Louis Buñuel, Spanish director, he's one of cinema's great surrealists, mixing realism with psychological sharpness. Of course, El comes from Buñuel's Mexican period, where his storytelling became more grounded, known for exposing hypocrisy, desire, and the absurdity of human behavior. And directing style here, calm surface, unsettling undercurrent. Now, as I said before, this is my first exposure to Louis Buñuel's work, and I'm definitely inspired to dive deeper into his work. So I would really love to know, from your opinion, based on me having seen this, what would be your recommendation for me to pick up next? Is there a title that maybe I should consider picking up in the November sale of Louis Buñuel's work? Let me know that in the comment section below, because I definitely want to explore more of his work for sure. All right, so that is Louis Buñuel. Let's talk about paranoia, delusion, and performance. Arturo de Cordova's central performance in this film, a man spiraling into jealousy and obsession. He is just absolutely mind-blowing in this role. Of course, he plays a character named Francisco in this film, Francisco Galvan del Montemayor. That's the name of the character from Arturo de Cordova, but Francisco. And then Delia Garces plays his wife, Gloria. Just two fascinating performances from Arturo de Cordova as well as Delia Garces playing this married couple and this man spiraling into jealousy and obsession. Buñuel does an amazing job portraying paranoia with restraint rather than spectacle, and the tension builds through behavior, not big plot twists. So I really like the way that Buñuel builds the tension of the increasing paranoia of Arturo de Cordova's character. I think that the story is laid out very well. This is a 92-minute film, and it's sort of broken up into three parts, at least the way I experienced it. In the first 30 minutes, you get the initial setup, how they meet, how they eventually, as you find out in the second 30 minutes, get married. But in that middle 30 minutes, the story is told in flashback form as the now regretful wife. She's now regretting that she married him, and she is telling the story of the terrible things that he has done to her during the marriage, and really telling that in flashback form. So I thought that was great. And then the final 30 minutes is where the story goes to its very fascinating conclusion. So I really enjoyed the structure of this story and the way that it's told. And I really enjoyed the way that Buñuel did a great job building the tension of this man's increasing paranoia during the course of this film. I also found it pretty fascinating that this story is based upon a novel from this lady named Mercedes Pinto. It's basically an autobiographical novel which is based on her own personal experience having experienced abuse from her first marriage. I thought that was very interesting that that would be the basis of this film, based on the true life story of the woman who wrote the novel. So I thought that was interesting. And of course, Delia Garces brings a grounded emotional counterweight. Her calm sincerity and vulnerability really make the paranoia even more disturbing. So I thought her performance was fascinating. She was a great counterweight to Arturo de Cordova's character, and that tension between the two is just palpable. And you're just wondering, okay, what in the world is going to happen next? And why is she still with him? And what is he going to do next? And where is this story going? It definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat as you see, him descend into further madness and seeing her trying to endure it and trying to figure out how to survive and get out of this mess that she's in. So really, really well told story. So let's talk about El in Mexican cinema. So El is considered one of Buñuel's key works from his influential Mexican era. This film blends psychological drama with dark social satire, and it's a standout example of 1950s Mexico filmmaking that challenged norms. Is not as widely discussed today, but now rediscovered through Criterion, and an opportunity for someone like myself to discover this film. And what an amazing film this is. I am so happy that I did the blind buy and picked this one up the other evening at Barnes & Noble. Picked it up at the Mall of Georgia location, Barnes & Noble. So was very happy about that. And I was able to get a cinnamon chip muffin on the way out. So really enjoyed that. But yeah, this is just a fascinating film. I really like some of the architecture that is shown in some of the exterior scenes. So this is an example of that with Delia Garza's character in the foreground there. Let's talk a little bit about the picture quality of this 4K. How does this film look on the 4K format? And I gotta tell you, I thought this film looked quite nice in the 4K Ultra HD format. I thought it was a very solid picture quality overall. And all right. All right, so let's talk about how El looks on the 4K Ultra HD format. Of course, I'll crack open this case here, and I'm very happy to see that we get a nice stapled little booklet here. And of course, you see Arturo de Cordova's character looking pretty overwhelmed there, and you see El, fantastic stuff. On the inside, you see the two of them early in the film, how they meet in the church initially. Very interesting first meeting of these two. But we go to the back here and we can read on the master, about the master. Always have that section on the master. And it says, El is presented in the aspect ratio of 1:37:1, supervised by photographer Gabriel Figueroa Flores, son of director of photography Gabriel Figueroa. This new 4K restoration was created from a 35mm duplicate positive. So this was created from a duplicate positive, not the original camera negative. And overall, I would say that this picture looked quite nice. I mean, it was restored and cleaned up beautifully. It's a clean image, nice stable image with fairly good resolution overall. I would say that overall, the image does appear a bit soft for the most part, but it's a very nice, clean, stable image overall. And I think it's a solid picture quality. It is not the most crisp, clear presentation you'll ever see. I think if you were to compare it to other 4Ks of the same vintage, like say Double Indemnity or Sunset Boulevard, those 4K Ultra HD discs look quite a bit better. Those older black and white films of that same time period from the mid-40s to 1950, Sunset Boulevard and Double Indemnity both look fantastic on the 4K format. And what I would say is this is just a notch below those. Still, very nice looking image, beautifully restored, clean, stable picture, nice level of clarity in the image. You don't see any dirt or specks or anything, so it's been beautifully cleaned up. It just doesn't have that level of sharpness that I would see on some of those other older 4K pictures. But overall, very solid 4K image. Don't really have any complaints, but it does have a little bit of a softness to the image. In terms of the sound is based on uncompressed monaural soundtrack, and it sounds perfectly fine. Of course, you have those subtitles for those of us who do not speak Spanish fluently, able to understand what the actors are saying, and you can hear what they're saying as well as hear the sounds and the soundscape. So from an overall video and audio standpoint, I think it's a solid presentation overall, and I think that there are definitely parts of this film that look really, really nice, and then the rest of it looks perfectly fine. And I think it's a very nice restoration overall. Solid picture quality overall. It's not spectacular. It's not going to blow you away or anything like that. But it is a solid 4K picture of an older film. So this is a 72-year-old film, and it's not based off of the restoration is not based off of the original negative. So you have a generation or two from that. And you can kind of tell that it is limited by that to some extent. But yeah, so a solid presentation overall from a video and audio standpoint. Now, as far as the supplements, let's take a look at the supplements that are on this disc. You have a number of nice supplements on this disc, including a new video essay on director Louis Buñuel by a scholar, Jordi Zifra, which I thought was excellent. An appreciation by filmmaker Guillermo del Toro. So you'll see there at the top right, Guillermo del Toro sits down and he does a beautiful job just sharing his appreciation of Louis Buñuel. He shares some parallels between Louis Buñuel and Alfred Hitchcock and talks about the two of them as being two of his favorite filmmakers. And I thought that was a very, very nice discussion of his breakdown and admiration of Louis Buñuel. At the bottom left there, you'll see Louis Buñuel being interviewed from, I think, the early 1980s. You have another feature, a video essay, Louis Buñuel from E to L, which is a very nice feature. And then at the bottom right there, you have Cine en Blanco Negro, which is cinema in black and white, where you have a panel discussion that goes on for about an hour where they talk about Louis Buñuel's work. So very nice panel discussion from 2009, moderated by filmmaker Jose Luis Garci. And so I think from an overall package of supplements, there's some very nice supplements on here. I think the discussion with Guillermo del Toro about Louis Buñuel and his parallels with director Alfred Hitchcock, I thought that was a great discussion. I think the video essay is absolutely fantastic. Of course, anytime you get to sit down with the director, that's a nice discussion from 1981. And of course, that panel discussion, the cinema in black and white, very nice discussion there. So some pretty good coverage of Louis Buñuel and of this movie, and what this movie means in Mexican cinema and how important it is to the filmography of Buñuel. I think these supplements do a pretty good job of touching on some of those main points. And of course, anytime you can get Guillermo del Toro to share his passion on film, that is always a treat. I think that discussion with Guillermo del Toro runs about 30 minutes, and it's a very good one. All right, so do I recommend L from the Criterion Collection on 4K Ultra HD? I would say that if you're interested in foreign cinema, if you like to discover new films from filmmakers around the world, if you're up for a blind buy and you're interested in a film that has a level of tension and suspense to it, this is a title you might want to consider adding to your shelf. This is a fascinating film that deals with the complexity of this relationship between this man and a woman, where you have a high level of paranoia and delusion. It takes you down a very fascinating path that makes you wonder, okay, where is this going to go? So if that sounds like a title that interests you, this may be one for you to consider picking up. I think that this film looks wonderful on the 4K format. It is somewhat limited by the source. It's not based off of the original camera negative. It's got a generation or two after that. But overall, the picture quality is perfectly fine on the 4K format, and it sounds good. And the supplements are pretty strong on this release. So overall, this gets a recommendation from me, and definitely a great time to pick it up during the 50% off Barnes & Noble sale. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this film if you've seen it? If you've seen Elle, let us know what you think about it in the comment section below. And again, let me know and let us know what other titles from Luis Buñuel you would recommend, and what are some other titles starring Arturo de Cordova or Delia Garces. What other films have they been in that you've enjoyed? Let us know that in the comment section below as well. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Have a great one and have a happy Thanksgiving if you're seeing this before Thanksgiving. God bless. Peace.